Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Meaningful Monday. My name is Joby Harrell, and I'm here talking to you from Louisiana. I visited my brother and my nephew this week actually. Yeah, today's topic was one that's meaningful to me, especially because of what's going on right now in the world. The a lot of the hate in the API toward the API community, and API is Asian American and Pacific Islander community in this world right now in the country. It's it's getting been out of hand for a while. It's getting worse and worse. And a lot of people talk about it and they don't acknowledge a lot of what's going on right now. And that's why I've been promoting it. For those of you who follow me on social media, I've been promoting it on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook as much as I can, because there needs to be more of a conversation about it. Daniel Day Kim and Daniel Wu have been talking about it. Those two are the actors. For those who don't know, they're very prominent in the community. Michelle O came out recently, has been having a lot of conversations about it. They had a huge rally in Atlanta this weekend and another one in San Francisco. And I think that's awesome. I think it's great. It's an issue that needs to be talked about a lot more. And that's why I'm talking about it now. So for those of you who are who want to contribute, please feel free to make a comment and let us know what you're thinking, what your thoughts are, what's your experience been. If there are Asian Americans in the audience today, please do chime in. Let us know what you're thinking about, what's happened, what have you observed, what have you experienced. I really want to know from you guys what's been going on, but I'll talk a little bit about my experience personally. And first of all, the question may be coming up: why are you talking about it if you're not Asian? Because I'm Indian. India is in Asia. In case anybody who needs a geography lesson, that is the case. India is in Asia, and this has been going on for a long time. And that's the first thing. But secondly, do I need to be Asian to talk about this? No. I'm observing it. I'm seeing it in the community. Even if I wasn't Indian, even if I wasn't someone talking about this kind of thing, it's something it's in our culture. It's in our country right now, and it's really bad. It's frustrating because for those of you who have not been able to see the news, I honestly didn't see it till a couple of days later because I don't watch the news. But last week there was this shooting in Atlanta. A gunman killed 6 Asian American women, and I think there were 8 people total shot, but 6 of them were Asian American. And the sheriff's department in Atlanta, 1, refused to acknowledge it as a hate crime, and 2, claimed that the guy had a bad day. That was his reasoning for what happened. That was his justification for this coward, frankly, taking this action and killing people. He had a bad day. And guess what? When I have a bad day, I talk to somebody, or I punch a pillow, or I yell, or I go play a sport, or I go work out, or I do something else that's productive with my time. Nor do I have the privilege to go kill someone or shoot someone, even if it's someone that I'm upset about. So why is this a big deal? It's a big deal because it's yet another example of white privilege. Another example was January 6th. And this is not talking about the Asian American community in that situation, but that's just another example of white privilege. People who raided the Capitol, who barged in, attacked and hurt and killed a police officer, hurt many others, were escorted peacefully, and some were even helped down the stairs from the Capitol by police officers, by Capitol Police, by whoever else, military personnel. I submit to you that both last week and the folks who were perpetrators on January 6th would not have been treated anywhere nearly as kindly if they were not white. And this is an example. This is shown many, many times in the past. Pick an event that happened. I mean, the BLM protests that happened, in preparation for it, they were putting up barricades and getting all hands on deck in terms of the Capitol Police and federal officers, and God knows how much security they had, right? Because they weren't white people protesting. When it came to Trump's rally, it was laxed. They didn't expect a big deal. Why is that? These are questions we want to ask ourselves. These are questions we need to be asking ourselves. And last week, why wasn't the person called a terrorist, a domestic terrorist? Why weren't they called a criminal or a gangbanger, right? These are terms that are used for brown people, for folks who are black, right? Or Asian Americans. Like they're going to they'll search and find some kind of connection to terrorist groups or to other kinds of, gang related activity or whatever. They'll find some kind of connection, and then they'll call them that. They'll label them that. They'll dehumanize them. I saw an article on CNN, and this really, really annoyed me. And this wasn't just CNN. I'm going to call out CNN, but there were a couple different news outlets that did this exact same thing. They wrote an article about the Atlanta shooting, and they named two people who were injured. One was, I believe, an like a white American, and the other one was a Hispanic American. I correct me if I'm wrong. I might have mischaracterized them. But then they had one heading for the white American. They had one heading for the Hispanic American, and underneath that they had one heading said, and also 6 Asian women were killed. And then they proceed to name 2 of the 6 Asian women in that article, and didn't even name the others. How do you just summarize that like that? How do you just put people under one big heading like, oh yeah, and also 6 other people were killed, but not people. 6 Asian Americans were killed. 6 Asian women. The same thing they do with reporting across the world, right? With atrocities across the world. If there's a terrorist attack or a bombing of some sort, they'll report and say, oh, 2 Americans were killed, and they'll ignore the 100,000 other people who died, who are also people. Yes, is it sad that Americans died? Of course, but other people died as well, and they are still people. Now, even on our soil, they're doing this. That's not okay. And this is as much a liberal media thing as it is a conservative media thing. It's just a media thing. So no, this is not a liberal rant for those of you who are going to liberal be leftist or whatever you want to say. It is a frustrating reality that Asian Americans, Black Americans, any minority in this country, any non-white, I should say, not minority, but any non-white American deals with. You're never going to see them say something like, oh, this white American was a terrorist. This guy was he was a terrorist, a domestic terrorist. Maybe the last time they said that was Timothy McVeigh, but even then they called him the Unabomber. They created a separate name for him to not call him a terrorist. They said he was the Unabomber. They didn't say he was a terrorist. They said he was a Unabomber. And I was much younger back then. Maybe they did here and there say terrorist. But this is a problem, and I really applaud all the folks who have come forward and who said things and spoken up about this and tried to elevate and amplify this message, because it is an issue that needs to be talked about more. Not just in the Asian community, though, by everyone. George Takei, who played, for those of you who don't know, he played Mr. Sulu on the original Star Trek back in the 60s. He's a very big advocate nowadays of LGBT rights, as well as Asian American rights, and just generally calling people out on bullshit. He posted I don't think it wasn't even a meme because it was reality. He posted a screenshot from, and I don't remember which news outlet it was, but a news outlet which said it was a discussion on Asian American issues in this country. There were 4 white people and 1 black guy. That was their panel that they could assemble to talk about Asian American issues in America. 4 white people and 1 black guy. Is that the best we can do? I posted it on my Twitter for those of you who care to look, but is that the best we can do? Is that really as good as this country can get? Like, we can't even get 1 Asian, just get a token Asian. Even that, I mean, I'll take that over no Asians at all. There's a ton of Asians. I mean, I know 1 Asian in the media, Archit Chitadri, who's based out of Atlanta, by the way. They couldn't have gotten him to talk about it, even though he's Indian, but not like East Asian. He's Asian. But there's a ton of Asian reporters and Asian journalists in general who do amazing work. But they didn't do that. They didn't care to assemble a group of people to talk about it properly. And even if they did care, this is exactly how unconscious bias manifests. It's not a conscious thing. They're not making a conscious choice. Let's exclude Asians, right? But they're just easily overlooked. I was on a Zoom call a few months ago. Actually, it was a year ago now. Time has no meaning anymore. I was on a Zoom call about a year ago with about 50 people on it. And there was me and a couple other folks who were black and 1 other Asian woman. And we're on this call and everyone's going around introducing themselves. And 1 white woman's mic wasn't working. And so she's like trying to make her white mic work. And the facilitator was nice enough to say, hey, okay, we'll come back to you in a moment. We'll let everyone else go. We'll get your mic situation figured out and we'll come back to you. So we went around and it came time for the Asian woman to introduce herself. And she started speaking, and immediately the white woman came back in and said, hey, can you guys hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? I think I got it working finally. So I'll just go now. And she proceeded to introduce herself. And the Asian woman just put herself back on mute and waited until the white woman was done. And then she came back on after she was done and then introduced herself. And in my head, I was like, I cannot believe the facilitator didn't do something about this. And this was a meeting to talk about the BLM situation and all of the craziness that was happening last year. Now, was the Asian woman black? No, but that doesn't matter. Okay, there's not justice just for one race. There's not a fight for just one race. This is a systemic problem that affects not just black people, but people of all non-white categories, and it's a real problem. All right, I mean, there's too many hashtags to append to posts where you're saying stop Asian hate, stop black hate, stop BLM, all these other things. It's just there's too many hashtags to append. You can't possibly attach all the hashtags. What you can say though is stop white supremacy, because that's the real issue here. The real issue is really white supremacy, and I'm not hating on anybody. It's not hate. It's just saying no race is superior to another. All right, no race is better than. No race is more worthy than. It's a situation where we have to call each other out, and we have to be able to, as a society, open the dialogue to talk about this stuff, and we haven't yet. A really close friend of mine last week was attacked in Virginia, of all places, Northern Virginia, not Southern Virginia, not somewhere where it's like, oh yeah, the people there are typically racist or whatever you want to say, and even that's a generalization that I don't really like to make. But Northern Virginia, she had hot coffee thrown on her for no reason, walking down the street near her house, might I add. No reason. And the coward, because that's what these people are, they're cowards, he drove off and just got away. Because she didn't see him, she was too busy wiping coffee off herself and trying not to get burned. It's maddening to no end. There's so many emotions, and it's taken me a long time to process that, what happened last week. And I wasn't waiting till something like that happened to close to home. I was hoping it wasn't going to happen close to home. Honestly, to be honest, I wasn't thinking about it's going to happen that close to home, to be honest with you. Because DC, you don't think these things are going to happen in big cities, but Atlanta is a big city, right? There's no excuse for it. There's no reason for it other than hate, other than bigotry, other than just plain bullshit. And I mean, it's inexcusable. And yes, we can blame Donald Trump all you want. Yes, he did empower these people. He did give them a voice that they hadn't had for a long time. But it's not just his fault. This has been an issue for a long, long time. Look at Asian portrayals in the media. All right, whether you're Indian or East Asian, we're always the butt of the jokes. We always have been. It's all not until recently that's not been the case, right? I mean, honestly, Harold and Kumar was the first one that really kind of didn't have the Indian guy forcing an accent of some sort, or the Asian guy forcing an accent of some sort, right? That was a revolutionary movie. It was hilarious, but it was revolutionary because it didn't have that situation where they were they were the butt of some jokes, but not really. They were the main characters of the stories. And I looking back, I didn't think about that at the time, because you don't think about this stuff when you're, in your early 20s or teens, nor should you have to think about these things. Right? I mean, you should be enjoying being a kid or being young. But this generation now is forced into seeing these things. I mean, I remember the Rodney King beating back in the early 90s, 91, I think it was, right? I remember hearing about that as a kid and wondering what the heck was going on. And my parents did the best they could to shield me from it, but it was all over the news, right? And that was probably the first example of something like that horrendous being captured on tape. And it was crazy that they had a video camera. Thank God they did, right? Because that was the first real insight into the LAPD and the brutality. But this is the beginning of things. Nowadays, everyone has a cell phone camera, and everyone's still doing this. It's not just police anymore, guys. It's not just about attacking police or whatever, the police being bad. Police are not just not the only problem. They're not the problem. It's society. It's systemic. And this kind of thing is a perfect example. And I'm sorry for those of you who are tuning in. I can't see the numbers today because I'm on my phone. But if you're tuning in just now, we're talking about Asian hate and all the craziness that are happening right now. And if something's happened to you, if you have an opinion, if you have something you want to share, a story or thoughts, please feel free to comment below, and I'll be happy to talk about it and address them. But it's kind of turning into a bit of a rant, more than a Meaningful Monday. But to make it more productive and kind of turn it into a discussion and an action step, what can we do? What's the point of this conversation? The point is, if you see even possibility of discrimination, speak up, say something. It's not just against Black people. All right, Black people do have their own unique challenges, but everyone does in this country. Even white people, believe it or not, they do. But they have a lot less than the average person. All right, they have a lot less than the other non-white people in this country. White people get the benefit of the doubt at the end of the day. And I've seen that over and over again. My nephew, who's 10, all right, told me a story about him working on his homework while he's waiting for my brother to pick him up. The kid next to him is doing homework. He's doing his homework. Teacher comes over and tells him, "Stop doing your homework. You got to get ready. Be ready to get picked up." Keeps walking. Doesn't say anything to the kid next to him. My nephew looks at the kid next to him, keeps doing his homework, and looks at the teacher and doesn't know what to do. I asked him if he said something. He said no. He didn't know what to say. That's not okay, man. That's not okay. At any level, at any age, but especially at such a young age. All right. I've done a lot of thinking about this recently, and about why there were certain characters in movies and TV that I really aligned with as a kid, and that I really felt more kinship to. And looking back, a lot of them were just not white characters, or they're characters that had black hair instead of blonde hair, or the characters that had darker skin, because I felt like I was closer to them. It's because they got me a little better than the other people did. That's just a reality, unfortunately. And so this is something that we need to do. We need to fix this for the next generation, guys. What can we do? Keep talking about it. Open the discussions. All right. Push your Congress people to vote for these bills that are coming out. There are a lot of bills that are being pushed through right now, and they're just not getting the traction that they need to get because they're just not hot button issues. They're not popular enough. And to the Asian communities, I mean Asians, South Asians, East Asians, all of us, we have to stop undercutting each other. All right. We are famous for doing this shit, and it really pisses me off. My whole life, my mom has a saying that Indian people are like crabs in a barrel, because once one gets to the top, the others have to pull them down. And that's because we always find ways to divide ourselves. We don't find ways to unite. The black people out there, I really applaud you, and I envy you. I'm a little bit jealous, honestly, because you guys are come together. Like the NAACP comes together so well. It's something where like you guys come together with a united voice and says, look, we're here and we want to be counted. And Indian people, Asian people in general, we find ways to divide ourselves. We find ways to say, oh, I'm better than you. I got to compete with you. So I can't possibly help you, because helping you would be hurting me automatically. Whether that's reality or not, it's just perception. That's bullshit. And we need to stop that immediately. We need to stop teaching our kids that. We need to stop letting our friends and family do the same thing. We need to stymie that as quickly as possible, because that's holding us back as well. The longer people keep us divided, the longer they can stay in control, and the longer they can do whatever they want to us. And we'll never have a voice. We have to have a voice. We have to give ourselves a voice. We haven't given ourselves a voice. We've allowed this to persist and continue on so long. It's done. It's time. And that's thanks for coming to my TED Talk. This is my my rant day right now, because I'm really fired up about this. It's something that it's just not okay. And I'm sorry that today is not really it's coming across very positively, but it is a positive message. Let's come together, everyone. Okay, come together and do what we can. And if you need help, let's try to organize. Let's find ways to make this work, because what's happening right now, it's not okay, and it's got to stop. We can't let that kind of stuff happen anymore. All right. I know this is a short one today, but any questions, comments, please feel free to comment below. If you like the video, I might question your sanity a little bit, because this is a little bit of a rant, but if you liked the content, please do hit the like button, hit share and subscribe, and feel free to reach out to me, please. I appreciate the conversations. I'm always happy to have conversations, even if you have a different opinion. If you think I said something wrong, please reach out to me. I'm not about polarization. I actually hate polarization, because it's bullshit. We have a lot more in common than we do different. Yes, we have to honor and appreciate our differences, but we do have more in common than we do differentiating us. So let's focus on that, and let's honor our differences and celebrate our commonalities, and come together and stop this violence, stop this craziness. Thanks, guys. Take care. Stay safe.